I'm a first year teacher. Should I tell my students that it's my first year? I've seen a few TikToks of teachers going into their first year panicking over the topic of if they should tell their students that it is their first year as a teacher and or if they should disclose their age to their students. Specifically those teachers who are in their 20s teaching middle and high school. For context, I'm 24 years old. I am a high school English teacher. I'm going into my third year currently. So when I started, I was 22. I teach sophomores and juniors, meaning when I started, I was about 6 or 7 years older than the kids I was teaching. Do I think that you should disclose to your students that it is your first year teaching? I think it's really up to you and how vulnerable you want to be with your students. So when I started teaching, I obviously introduced myself to my kids and I almost beat around the bush. I didn't directly tell them that this was my first year teaching. I told them this was my first year at my school, which isn't a lie, but it wasn't the whole truth. However, I was very open with them about the fact that I was 22 when I started. So eventually they started putting two and two together and figuring out that it was my first year teaching. If I could go back, I wish I could have done things differently. I wish I could have just been open and honest with them in telling them that this was my first year teaching. And the reason that I say this is because I have found over these past 2 years of teaching that being as transparent with my students is the best and only way to make connections that actually matter with them. So I personally think that you should tell your students that it is your first year teaching. This will allow them to show you a lot more grace. As a first year teacher or a teacher at all, you are constantly learning, but especially as a first year teacher, you are just finding your bearings. So I think it's important to be honest with your students and tell them that while I'm teaching you and you are learning from me, I'm learning from you and I'm learning from the people around me. Or I mean, you could do what I did and beat around the bush, and if they figure it out, they figure it out.